Hello, hello. Welcome, everybody. Hey, sorry for jumping on a little bit late. I've never streamed from Meld, it's called. I'm doing a new studio, a new streaming studio. I never streamed to YouTube before, and actually, it's been a while since I streamed at all for anything. So I just realized I thought I was talking to everybody, and I was like, dang, nobody's chatting. I hadn't clicked go live yet. So I got to click go live over there and then go live over here. Hey, this is my first one in a few years. You know, it's okay. Hey, what's up, Adi? What's up, Adi? Where have I been? Yeah, man. So before we talk about stuff, you know, like along the lines of Prophantasia, I'd love to talk about that. That's a great question. So from 2022 till just about a month ago, I was working full-time in finance. I got a job banking, of all things. I never thought I'd be a banker, but it made total sense for me to like learn the financial industry and learn those sorts of things. But man, I was busy. That full-time life, you know, corporate life. It was it felt like a long stretch of 2 years that I was doing that. No, dude. I totally messed up. I thought I was already live because I hit live on my studio on the program that I stream to YouTube with, but then YouTube also has a live button I had to hit. What's up, Victor? I assume that's how I pronounce your name. Hey, I'm glad you guys showed up. I was like, dang, I bet nobody's going to show up. It's my first stream in a long time. First stream in a long time. Last time I even did anything live was back in 2022. So this feels really good. It's part of my new like content strategy going forward because I quit full-time finance. So I'm done with that. I'm just kind of traveling around and I'll be, you know, you'll see my background change quite a bit where I'm streaming from. But I plan to do this more often. So I like live streaming. I like live conversations. They're just more fun for me than trying to crank out YouTube videos all the time. And then I'll make like little YouTube clips and stuff from the live stream, of course. But it's good to have y'all. Hey, drop a hello if you haven't yet, and just let me know where you're at. And also start loading the chat with different questions if you guys have questions, because we can totally chat about all that stuff. I don't anticipate the stream to get super, super big today. It did, man. It did help with my own finances, 100%. And that was part of the reason why I did it. Because I was raised in a household where we didn't really ever talk about finances. We didn't know where to put money or how to work with finances. And so I started to, that's a whole different story, how I got that job. Maybe we can get into that later today or something. I don't know. But yeah, it was massively beneficial. It was a necessary stepping stone, I would say, because now I got the vessel, you know, I got a container where you can pour things into, finances being the thing, whereas before it's just I wouldn't have even known what to do with money. Yeah, so more content's coming. Here's the honest truth. I don't super care for just pumping out YouTube content, which has been one of the struggles for me for this entire time I've been doing this, since 2018. I never have really liked doing video content. But I found a happy medium where I want to do more live streams like this. And then each time I do a live stream, well, mostly each time, it'll be kind of attached to a blog I just wrote. My favorite form of content creation is writing. So actually on my website, my blog is going to start having a lot more posts on it. Yep. And that's where the content will start coming. And that way, too, like I like getting really in depth, and it's hard to do that on a YouTube video. Like from these lives, it'll be cool because I'll cut out little shorts and stuff and put together YouTube videos for this, like that were from the live. But on a blog post, I can go as in-depth as I want, or as not in-depth as I want, or I can do a series very easy. I love writing. So it's actually my favorite form of communication. So make sure if you're not on my website's newsletter, I think when you join that, you can subscribe to the blog too if you're a member, which is free, obviously. And then it would like send you an email every time I come out with a new blog post. But I'll be doing that anyway to the newsletter. So I'm going to see, let's do this. I'm feeling like I want to just read some of your initial questions here because I see some visualization, Prophantasia related questions coming in. And then like I'll address those things, and I'm sure there's going to be more questions as we go. So I've tried improving my visualization before, but whenever I'd skip a day of training, it would become blurry again. I suspect repetition isn't the best thing for it, right? Now, what do you mean by you suspect repetition isn't the best thing? Meaning, well, because you had an experience where if you didn't practice, right, you lost the repetition, then you would lose some progress, it sounds like. So in that sense, repetition would be a good thing for you. It's so highly individual, that aspect of it. Like I've seen people make a lot of progress with minimal practice. I've seen a lot of people who've made a lot of progress by needing consistent practice. You know, it just really depends. You got to work with what your brain is liking or what your brain is taking to. How detailed can Prophantasia get? Great question. I'll actually show you a graphic. This is an image that probably some of you have seen. It's one that I use as my visual aid for the different types of visualization. We'll go over that in just a minute. Basically, the opposite of aphantasia, extreme ability to visualize in your mind's eye. Oh, you're answering, yeah. Is disassociation layer needed with Prophantasia, like you switch focus between projection and what's actually there? Sort of. That can help. That especially, I would say, helps with hyperphantasia. Now, at least you have aphantasia. Yeah, I hear you. You're all weirdos. Yeah, I know. Hey, we'll find. We don't need many. We'll find 20 weirdos. We'll all hang out. That's all good with me. I'm a weirdo. I feel like the weirdest of the weird sometimes. Hard to make this whole visualization. Oh, I already read that. I'm pretty good at abstract thinking. Yeah. Where do you think the purple light that shows after concentrating come from? Yo, so I have a blog post about these purple lights that are very common within meditators. For a lot of people, they're purple. They can be different colors, though. Like mine are oftentimes green or blue. I have seen purple, though. But I have some theories about it. Man, that phenomenon, Victor, that you just mentioned is like not written about. There's nothing on it. Very few blog posts, you know. And when I have seen it written about, they kind of lump those swirly lights. We used to call them blobulars just for fun. Those lights tend to be lumped in with phosphenes, which is like little pinpricks of light in your field of view. I term them phosphene waves because I feel like that better describes and differentiates that type of phosphene versus like just a little pinprick. But man, there's not really any information on there. I have some theories about it, but check out those. I have 2 blog posts about those lights that I feel like I went pretty in depth on. We have noticed there does seem to be a correlation, not least, between aphantasia and short-term memory, long-term memory too. I'm trying to remember. Joel Pearson did some good work around that. I think if I remember correctly, don't quote me though, I think it affects long-term memory more than short-term. Like working memory doesn't seem to be super effective. Rashan and I found that in our collab studies too. It'll require a lot of effort. Yeah, I think so. I think that's true. Like anything, right? I wonder, let me see real quick, because I can't, if I go over here, I don't think I can see the YouTube chat, can I? Nope. I have to be on the YouTube window to be able to see it, which is kind of a bummer. I got to figure out a way to do an overlay or something. I won't do that now. That'll be for next time. But okay, let me show you this image. This image will help to kind of get an idea of how like detailed Prophantasia can get, right? So let's make sure this is working right. Hey, looks like it. All right. Man, I can't see the chat. That's the bummer. See, here's the chat window. But I got to figure out how to get an overlay for myself. I don't know how to do it right now. I'm not going to waste time. But okay, so let me talk about this real quick. Because this image is what I created to help differentiate different types of visualization, right? Different types of mind's eye imagery and prophantasic imagery. It's not perfect. I'd rather do a 10-point scale, which I've been wanting to do that. Now I finally have the time again, so I'll pump that out at some point. I've just been busy redesigning my website and renaming stuff, right? I'm just using my name now. I feel like that's a much better call than using these brand names that just don't make much sense to do it like that. So, mind's eye. We all know aphantasia, hypophantasia, common phantasia, hyperphantasia, right? I want this to be a 10-point scale, but this gets the general idea across. Down here, you're just using words. This would actually be not baseline hypophantasia, because a lot of times they have only like one aspect of visual thought, right? A shape only, no color, or a color only, no shape, something like that. And then this would be like pretty top of the line hypophantasia, where the cat is starting to come in a little bit. Common phantasics, of course, and most of these types of people will start to have images, have motion to them, maybe other senses starting to creep in, like sense of touch and stuff like that too. And then hyperphantasia, of course, as much detail as if you're seeing something. Now, the big kicker, and I feel like all of us know this on this stream right now, but I'm just going to mention it just in case, is that this side of the spectrum, most of these people, I won't say all, you'll hardly ever hear me say that sort of thing where I generalize everybody, but most is a generalization, but I don't want to lump everybody into what I'm about to say. Most of these people will still just see black when they close their eyes, right? So they're imagining the image, or they're getting the sense of the image somewhere else. I like to draw the parallel of like when you get something stuck in your head, like a song. When you have a song stuck in your head, it's not like you're going, oh, where's the music playing from in the room, right? It's very clear that that experience is not a physical sense of hearing. Same thing with the mind's eye. It's not a physical sense of sight. Although hyperphantasics a lot of times will have a hard time differentiating their physical sight to their mind's eye sight. Because mind's eye is more of like a sense, and it can be very weak and it can be very strong. It's a sense of what something looks like as opposed to actually physically seeing something. Now, when we talk about prophantasia, so I came up with this term, and we finally coined it in a paper in 2022, which is cool, me and Dr. Reeder. So I came up with this term because we desperately needed this term, man. Like, the red star test keeps getting passed around, right? And at that time, it was very popular. It's less so now, which I'm grateful for. But that red star test is actually a perfect example of what prophantasia can look like. And so somebody might have like full functioning common phantasia, but lack prophantasia, right? So when they close their eyes, they just see black. And so then they might come across the topic of aphantasia and go, oh, well, geez, I have aphantasia, but they might not. I've actually worked with people like this that seemed to be a hyperphantasic, but how they were describing it seemed like they were aphantasic, and both the person and I didn't catch it until like many sessions in. And then I'm like, well, how vivid is it in your mind? And they're like, well, it's like I'm there. I'm like, okay, out of 10, what you got? And they're like, yeah, it's like I'm there. It's like a 10. And I'm like, you might be a hyperphantasic then. And they're like, yeah, I guess I am. What they actually were trying to communicate was they lacked this one, right? So this black space represents that, just the black area in front of you when you close your eyes because you cut off the light from coming in. Typically, prophantasia will start very vague like this. Just like very vague outline. It might not even be this defined, honestly. Sometimes my prophantasia images almost look like they have 2 or 3 lines all bunched up together where the edge is. Other times they can be real vivid like that, but it just depends for me on the day. So just barely anything. Of course, you add a little bit to it here. This is pretty rare from what I understand. From all the people I've talked to, everybody that's talked about Prophantasia, not a whole lot of people experience like where the outline itself starts to get filled in. I have that in moments. I'm starting to be able to control that, which is fun. This sort of thing where it's like the cat has full detail, or at least close to it, it seems extremely rare. I would even say this top one here is not very rare. It seems extremely rare. And then this sort of Prophantasia, I haven't even really talked to very many people that talk to me about this at all. Like maybe if they're in a meditation or very deep relaxed state, I can get into something like this. So I have done something like this, but it's only in specific states. It's not like I could close my eyes right now and fully see like I'm wearing a VR headset. If anybody has that, email me because I'd love to talk to you about it. I would absolutely love to talk to you about it. So to go back to the question that was asked in chat, and I'll switch my view again. How detailed can Prophantasia get? It can get that detailed. It can get to the level of detail where it looks like a full scene, right? Where it looks like you're somewhere else with as much detail as how I'm sitting here talking to you right now. Is that common? No. Can I do that on cue? No, not yet. I'm still working on it. Let me see what I missed over here on the chat. Let's see. I got a bunch of questions here. I'm going to kind of work through them, okay? So you worded it wrong. Let me go back. Suspect repetition isn't the best. It was more like hit a barrier when it comes to clarity, and repetition alone wasn't enough to get through it. Oh yeah, I mean, that makes sense. Sometimes I've noticed some, like people, depending on how they practice, they'll sort of plateau. And what I always recommend to people that I work with is like, try what works for you. And sometimes you might need to switch it up. Right? So you never want to stick with something just out of obligation or because that's how somebody else did it or something, or that's what worked last month. If it stops working, feel free to just kind of move on and try something else, right? And the clarity progress would regress a lot if you skipped a day. Yeah, that also might have to do with like the type of default processing that your brain is used to, right? Because I find brainwave states have a heavy influence on how vivid breakthroughs can be and how easily attainable they can be, especially in the beginning. So if people are used to operating mainly from, let's say, a beta state, which is very fast, stressed out type thinking, our normal everyday life is beta brainwaves for the most part. Then if you stop practicing, your brain might just start defaulting back into that state. Good question to think about. Have you ever practiced meditation or have you done any of that? Sort of like brainwave state control. Your name's hard to say. 1A8Z9W. And forgive me, guys. I think I said this before I was live when I thought I was talking to everybody. But I'm traveling around right now. My stomach is a little wacky today. My energy is a little low. I anticipated my weak American stomach to get hit at some point, and unfortunately, it just happened to hit me. I had something, I don't know what I had. I had something bad. It gave me a bug. Didn't seem that bad. It's probably just a mild food poisoning, but do I think the phosphenes are related to hypnagogia? Yeah, for sure. They can be, right? Hypnagogia is the specific term for the state when you're falling asleep. Hypnopompia is a specific term for when you're waking up. It's that in-between space. It's that in-between state, right? So hypnagogic imagery can occur, and most of the time it occurs like Prophantasia for people, like where you actually see it in that black space. And phosphenes, this is a really deep question. Are phosphenes the same thing, and would they be related to hypnagogic imagery? I have some theories about it, but there's no literature on this yet. I do think so. I think the little phosphenes and those phosphene waves that can show up is your brain sort of using like, or perceiving, let's say like, my theory, don't quote me on this, it's just my idea right now. I think that stuff is like raw visual data that's not attached to any external stimuli, aka your rod and cone cells and the optic nerve. But it's like those areas of the brain being stimulated and trying to process something sort of visually. So theoretically, if that were the case, then the phosphenes that we see in those little flashes or swirls of light and stuff like that could form into full imagery, which I've actually had happen before, and that's part of why I have that theory. I remember one time I was practicing being blindfolded a lot and visualizing and stuff like that after I had taught myself Prophantasia. And I was observing those phosphene waves, right? The waves and swirls of color. I was just watching them because they're fascinating to look at for any length of time. And this really trippy thing happened where they kind of condensed down into the center of my vision like this. And then they expanded out, like one of the waves expanded out like this and held itself out like that, like over my vision. And through the phosphene wave, through the window, so to speak, of a phosphene, of a large one, I was able to see another environment. It was like a grassy field, fully detailed color. I was laying down. I think I was probably right on the brink of sleep when this happened. And it actually led into a lucid dream. So my conscious self moved through the phosphene window and I entered into a lucid dream. Super trippy. Super trippy. So I do think hypnagogic imagery is related, and actually potentially I have some blog posts I'm going to be releasing at some point about this, about some of these ideas. I wonder if our everyday life is using phosphenes too, in a way, to compile the image that we expect to see around us, in a sense. I don't know. It's interesting to think about. What if you can't see visual snow? How do you train then? So prophantagic imagery can form within visual snow. I find that very useful. It doesn't necessarily need to, though. Like, you can still get outlines without the visual snow. And have you guys been on the Cure Fantasia Reddit? I really appreciate, I'm not sure if they're, who they are exactly, but they have some really good information in there, the person that started that. So that person has some really cool exercises that differ from my programs quite a bit. So it's like, and they seem to focus more on Prophantasia in there. So they have some really good ideas of how to like start generating outlines and stuff, after image training, things like that. What I have my students do now, or people that I've worked with, even friends that I've taught Prophantasia to recently, is like focus on the feeling of where something is instead of actually looking for it right away. So if you can get the feeling of where the triangle is or where it would be, almost like a proprioceptive sort of spatial awareness of it and where it would be, that'll help to generate the image of it. Prophantasia is trippy because it's like you're essentially gaslighting your brain into actually seeing something that's not there, right? Mind's eye is a little less like that, but even mind's eye training has an element of that, I find. I think the low vis is, I'm going to try to get caught up because I'm a little behind on the comments here. How do you know hyperprophantasia actually exists? How do we know anything exists? How do we know? Oh, man. Well, so the hyperprophantasia, you're asking how do I know that exists? I've had those experiences. It's just not something I can duplicate all the time, right? What if it blocks entire reality? It's a good question. Like this person's comment right now, Adi says, hyperprophantasia sounds kind of scary. What if it blocks entire reality and you can't tell the difference between real and projected imagination? This is why I highly recommend people that are going to start practicing Prophantasia They kind of weigh the risk because we don't fully know some of that stuff yet. Mind's eye I don't find is so intrusive, but theoretically, a very extreme case of prophantasia could potentially be detrimental to their experience of reality, right? So especially if somebody has like a history of mental illness or, schizophrenia running in their family and stuff like that, that might be a genetic disposition to some of that. It's very, it's a good thing to be very cautious. Why are there so many things, insane things in meditation, right? There's more information going to the visual cortex than the other way around. Is that true? And what are the implications of it? I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you would be referring to there. Oh, yeah. Hey, no sweat. Yeah, I mean, thank you for jumping in and having a conversation, man. Or lady, or anything in between. It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. I'm honored to be able to be a part of the conversation. It's been a blast. So this is just stuff that I'm like naturally fascinated by. Which is why I rebranded all my stuff to just my name, because I wanted to be able to explore all the topics that I'm into, not have it locked into a certain brand or a certain topic. So, and thank you, man. Yeah, after you hope I feel better. Yeah, after I jump off today, I'll just take a nap or go for a swim or something. I'll feel better. Like one mild case of food poisoning for going somewhere completely novel like I am right now is not too bad. I think I'm skating by pretty well. When you practice with the blindfold on, did you control your attention and or focus in any special way? Yes. So I was actually practicing a skill that is just starting to be talked about more now, where you're trying to see without having your eyes taking in any information. So you're trying to see your surroundings, right? So that's actually what I was practicing for. And I was using Prophantasia to kind of try to do that. So at that point, this was back in like 2011. Might have even been it was probably 2012. And by that time, I had already learned how to get imagery to show up in outlines, like prophantasic outlines. So I was trying to form outlines around objects that I was holding and stuff like that. And then if I was really into it, then those phosphine waves would start and some wild stuff happened with that. Kundalini King, that's a fun name. Hey, what's up, King? I was prophantasic as a child. Now I have aphantasia. Interesting. Have you tried anything? Have you tried to tweak your experience or play around with any of it? Taylor, feels like those random purple blue colors that often move around form random silhouettes now. Oh yeah, for sure. Yep, that's kind of what I'm talking about. They can like form into imagery, right? Yep, I find a few times I've been able to control them and like freeze them or slow them down or like hold them in a certain spot. And when I was trying that is when they expanded and it became a lucid dream like I was discussing earlier. What holds me back is fear from going insane. I get it. Have you ever had a panic attack because imagery became more intense? I haven't, but like in a hyperphantasic sense, it did catch me off guard a few times where I didn't have a panic attack, but it made me nervous because I was driving and then suddenly I didn't see the road anymore. I just saw what my imagination was showing me, and that was a little freaky. I don't want that to happen when I'm driving, That's why it's a good idea to take it real slow. In my programs, I think in my mega guide, if you guys haven't checked out the mega guide, you got to check that out because that's where like all my exercises and stuff, it's all open source. So even the people that don't want to pay for a program, I want everything to be open source. I want all my information to be out there. And that mega guide has pretty much all my aphantasia and low mind's eye, hyperphantasia, and prophantasia exercises in there. It's a work in progress, of course. Always going to evolve. But yeah, I have been caught off guard here and there. Now, the way I want to do it for myself is having like more control over each step, right? I want to be able to flip something on, and I equally want to be able to flip something off. So there's a concept, I can't remember if I talk about it in my mega guide or not, but a concept that I teach about that I came up with called mental switches, where you learn how to turn up the volume of something in your mind, and then you learn how to turn it down as well. And both those are very important. I can work with the spatial info, but not sure it can get one there. Like a shape, like a prophantasic shape. I don't have a way to answer how long does it take, because it's so individual. Most people, it seems, will have a breakthrough of at least starting to feel where the shape is pretty quick. But there's no telling. If you're doing something for a couple weeks every day and nothing happens, then time to move on. Try something different, right? Gentleman by the name of Tom Matt. He has the most prolific and profound work on Prophantasia. Oh, let me see. Does he actually use the term Prophantasia? Because if so, that's pretty cool. This term I made back in the day is catching on. Well, there's a football quarterback, and is that him? Let me see, Prophantasia. You guys want to see what I'm seeing? Let's hunt. Let's check it out. Oh. Prophantasia. Is this the right guy? Upsight vision. I see things you don't. I'm assuming this is the guy you're talking about. Broke his brain with drugs. Upsight vision. I gotta figure out how to overlay the chat onto my screen so I can see everybody while I'm looking around. Mind's eye became like a projector with psilocybin. That's cool. I mean, not everybody has that effect, so you're one of the lucky ones, actually. Upsight vision. Oh, yeah. Sweet. I did find him. Cool. Well, I'm going to check into this guy. And actually, I'm sure him and I would have a great conversation if we ever got to connect. Cool. Man, like, yeah, if some people, what he's calling upsight vision, if some people have extreme prophantasia like that and can utilize it in a useful way, that's awesome. I'm not quite there yet. You know, I still want to keep generate. Open the tab and layer it. Yeah, maybe I can pop out chat. Oh ho ho. Can you guys see this? Check it out. Heck yeah. There was a pop out option. That's easy. I dig it. Okay. Let me hang on one sec. Let me just rearrange my windows a little bit because I want to be able to have that on top of my Meld Studio. We got it. Great suggestion, Adi. Oh yeah. Sweet. Yeah. Upside vision. I actually want to go back to that. Let's check a little bit out about this. I'm hesitant going over to X though, because it's like sometimes you find some weird stuff. Like, dude, do you have anywhere else besides X here? Okay. Let's see. I see things you don't. Man, I wonder what sort of things he describes here. I'm sure he gets into it. Have you guys seen any good podcasts with him on it? Oh, well, maybe this. Form of upsight vision. Yeah. Well, I won't scroll through this a whole ton because I could get real lost in what this guy's talking about, I'm sure. But I'm excited to check it out. Thanks for the recommendation. Found a cruel but fascinating whole lucid dream. Can't access the part of my brain in your waking hours. So here's a question for you, Taylor. When you arise or when you come out back to consciousness from a lucid dream, do you remember some of how things look like? X is the Wild West. I know, right? I'm just I'll be very selective, right, with where I go on X if I'm live streaming. Oh, my pleasure. Like I said, yeah, absolutely. And more coming, more coming. These conversations are going to happen more frequently, not only on this channel, but I think people are getting real interested in this stuff. So. Oh, Adi, I wanted to circle back around to what you had asked earlier about, the possibility of insanity. It's something that I kind of weighed out for myself years ago. And just for me personally, I'm just too freaking curious. Like, I weighed the risk of sort of doing that with my drive for wanting to know how stuff works and stuff. And to me, it was something that I had to leave that fear behind, right? But that being said, I don't have a history of schizophrenia and things like that. So it's like I still recognize the danger and the need for people to be very cautious with how they mess around with their conscious space, right? Have you ever had any out-of-body experiences? Yes. Very, many. I've had many. Now, here's the question. Is it a legit out-of-body experience? Or is it something like a lucid dream, right? Also, is it something that you're experiencing in your mind only as a construct? Or is it something that you're experiencing that's actually external and can be externally verified? More objective reality. I don't have an answer to that in regards to my experiences. A lot of my out-of-body experiences, they feel different to me than lucid dreams. They feel more real, even more real than this reality, which nobody ever told me that phrasing. That's how it occurred to me. And then I finally, as I researched the topic, I learned about people saying, yeah, it feels more real than this reality. It really does. So they feel different than lucid dreams, but then what I would consider out-of-body experiences or astral projections are so bizarre. It's like I typically couldn't like lock in on anything objective that was measurable, So I'm not sure if it's just a product of our mind or it's a construct of the dream space, but for some reason much more vivid. I'm not sure. I have friends who have had external verification of stuff, but I've never had that in a OBE, astral projection. That's the term I prefer. Lucid live. What is lucid live? If you can lucid dream, you can lucid live or lucid live. You had a lucid dream within the first 10-15 minutes, roughly mapped out and sketched the area you just dreamt. That's cool. Yeah, that's super cool. So you did have some recall, right, within that short time frame of certain visual elements. Maybe not even necessarily visualizing them, but at least you had the visual memory of them. So that's cool. One of the things I do in my program is like really dig in with people about how those memories occur, because sometimes people digging into how they're occurring, how that thought and that memory is occurring, they might find out, not saying that you're this way, but people sometimes will find out that, oh, that thought that I was having was likely visual, right? You've had one OBE? Yeah, it's fun. Super fun. Partially verified it using a random number placed in an inaccessible place. Ooh, that's cool. See, I've never had anything like that. My astral projections are always just freaking bizarre. I end up, if they are external information, it's like not here, and it doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, where the hell am I? I have no idea. Ego, self-axis. I like Jung. I'm not very learned on it though. So I'm only surface level with Jung's stuff. Because schizophrenia and aphantasia are opposite ends of the spectrum. Aphantasia is a deficiency. When you correct aphantasia by supplementing, you can cross over into this crystal. I think there's danger of that, right? Like if somebody had a disposition genetically or mentally for the experience of schizophrenia where what they imagine would run wild, then that could be the case, but I haven't found that to happen with anybody that I've ever worked with. Don't think he knows how to teach it. Yeah, maybe not. I find that that's true for a lot of people. You know, that's part of what I love to do is teach, and I love finding language to use that makes things clear. A lot of people aren't wired like that, so which isn't their fault. You know, they may have something open up and they may experience something, but then how to actually get others to experience it too is another story. Did not break his brain with drugs. Well, there was an article that said that. There was an article that said Tom Matt broke his brain with drugs and now he sees stuff, right? He might have said that just for fun or something. I'm not sure. Oh, he wrote it for himself. Yeah. Writing it again. Did I miss a question? Your experience with visuals like those blobulars and windows sounds like Casina. Yeah, it does, right? So I've never tried Casina, but I know some of how people describe the experience of Casina, and it does. There's some overlap there for sure. Those windows can open up to a number of different things too. Like I had a grassy field. I had a friend who had the same exact freaking experience. I never told her about it. And actually at the time we were only acquaintances. We didn't really know each other. But she had the same experience where she was watching the waves, the phosphine waves. They formed into a little dot and they expanded, and she was seeing her hotel room with her eyes closed. Pretty wild. Was it a construct of the mind, or was she actually seeing what's in front of her? Not sure. I think she was seeing what's in front of her based on what she does with it now. Oh, well, thank you. My videos inspired me. I appreciate that. I try to put things as clear as possible and make things applicable and practical, right? And I love doing that. I love breaking down complex ideas into something graspable where we can understand and where we can have like a common framework and common language. It's just something I've always thought like that since I was a kid too. Not sure how to explain how my brain thinks. Okay. When would you return again on YouTube? Well, see, my YouTube channel, like this is kind of going to be my main format going forward. I'll do videos and stuff here and there, but I just don't like it. It's funny. Like, I just don't enjoy the process of coming out with actual sit down, scripted out videos. What I'd rather do is like do live streams like this, where I maybe follow an outline. Like this one was always just going to be very casual because I haven't done this in a long time. But so do live streams like this, and then my YouTube content will be cut from that live stream. That seems much more appealing. My blog is going to be where it's at. Like my blog, on my website is going to be where all the new info comes out, all the new open source stuff comes out. I just like writing more. You know, writing is my favorite form of communication, and live talking. Like, stand me up in front of a group of people, I love it. I love it. Put me in front of a camera with a script where I have to do multiple takes to say the same thing. Ugh. It just drives me crazy. It just drives me crazy. Hey, Magic Mux, how's it going? Message retracted. Never mind. Not how it's going. I do have a Discord server, Kundalini King. Yeah. You'd love to support. Hey, man, come be part of the community. I'm just starting to relaunch into that. It's been real quiet in there for a number of years because I was working in finance. So now that I have more time, I've been redesigning the server. I redesigned my website. I'm just getting some of that like admin stuff out of the way, redesigning the YouTube channel. Hire an AI version of you. Yeah, to be the YouTube version of me. You know, I could see myself like doing more typical YouTube videos again once I have enough resource to hire it out. Like me film it, I can get through that, you know, set aside a couple hours to film a new video, and then somebody else edits it and all that. The ironic thing about that is I like the editing process. That's my favorite part. I just don't like the filming part. So it's like, well, then I'd be only doing the part that I don't like, and it just doesn't appeal to me right now. My hope is to have my writing be more the main focus, and then lives like this. Just set the notification for, oh, you're in the Discord already? Sweet. Yeah. Yeah, it's been real quiet in there, just a heads up. So I think as I get more active in there again and start having more things for people to plug into, which I'm working on, it'll be really a thriving thing again. Because my vision for that was always to have a community where people could practice, bounce off each other, you know, make progress, see new things, experience new things, not just with aphantasia. Clone, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm not opposed to that in the future, like bringing people on the team too, right? Let me see. Since this live stream, guys, was going to be like Prophantasia focused, I just want to ask, maybe not, but does anybody have any Prophantasia specific questions? Any other questions that we haven't talked about yet? Anandenophasia. I'm not familiar with that term. Limits the ability to learn and affects memory. Okay. When you reverse anandenophasia, I hope I'm saying that right. Access the inner monologue and memory in aphantasia. So if that phrase, if that term limits the ability to learn and affects memory, then yeah, I mean, aphantasia could very well be interrelated, right? I would say, potentially. We have seen, I think it was Joel Pearson's lab that put out a really good study with a pretty large sample size where they found aphantasics did have less capacity of memory, long-term and short-term. So it does appear to affect memory, which is really important, right? A really important distinction, correlation between aphantasia and working memory. Hello from Germany. I got into this whole theme because I wanted to imagine more realistic. Because I studied design and doing art is also very interesting. Nice. Oh yeah, glad to have you here, Magic Mux. Welcome from Germany. That's awesome. I'm in an undisclosed part of the world right now. It's not Kansas anymore. It's not where I'm used to. Do you think it's possible to check for prophantasia by imagining an object in mind, moving side to side, and checking for erratic eye movement? So, Victor, I'm glad you mentioned this because I have heard that this is potentially a method of measurement for something like prophantasia, right? Where somebody projects the image of a shape or something and they make it move along their vision, without tracking, your eye will naturally do saccades. It'll jump, right? With tracking, it'll track along with it. So my friend his name's Alex. This guy's one of my really good buds. He's a pretty well-known hypnotist, been working in the field a long time, and they've been able to show that within hypnosis, that if somebody's hypnotized to see a shape going by or something like that, their eye will not saccade, it will not jump. So potentially, yeah, we'd need a lot of research on that, and then we would also need like people that actually demonstrate that level of prophantasia, which, like I said, seems extremely rare. How do you get patience for practice? Man, I'm the wrong person to ask about that. I'm the wrong person to ask. My default mode is just lazy and do nothing. Like, to be fully honest, like most of the time I just want to lay around. So where my motivation comes from, actually I can't even say that I'm very motivated. Like where I generate my energy to do stuff is not from being motivated or having patience. It's from really deciding what I want, like what I desire, right? And then I kind of just ignore patience. I ignore having patience. I ignore having motivation. I just go for the outcome that I'm looking at, right? Eyes on the prize. That's for me. Not everybody's like that, obviously. But yeah, my default mode is funny, man. I'll just lay around. Not very useful in life just to do that. So I've had to learn how to like teach myself how to be motivated, but it's rarely from actual motivation, like where I feel motivated to do something, because motivation is like an emotion, right? I rarely feel motivated, but what I've learned how to do is set my sights on something and make it happen regardless of whether I feel like doing it or I feel patient about it or whatever. Like I know the outcome I want, I gotta get it. I gotta do it. And I've always had a measure of that since I was little, but definitely cultivated as I got older. Notice the last few years, the majority of guided meditation, oh man, not even the last few years. Like guided meditation has always driven me crazy because they put such a heavy emphasis on mind's eye and visualization, but really a lot of meditation has nothing to do with visualization at all. Unfortunately, it's a huge misconception, I would say, that a lot of guided meditations just centers around visualization, which can be super frustrating. I'm sure some of you know, for aphantasics. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do with this? There's nothing you can do with it because it's all focused on mind's eye. Granted, a lot of those people that facilitate meditation like that haven't really explored the topic of aphantasia or might not even know that it exists at all. So thanks for the guide. You help you think prophantasia can change one's personality. I haven't seen that low-level prophantasia would change anybody's personality. I've worked with 2 people over the past, how long have I been doing this? It's 2025. I started in 2018. I've worked with 2 people during that time where they had such a measure of their mind's eye open up that it kind of was hard for them to sort through. It was like a little shocking. For both of those individuals, trauma had to played a part in their acquired aphantasia. So, and they knew that going in. They knew it was going to be a little bit of a risk if their mind's eye opened up too quick. I wouldn't say their personality changed, though. It was more like they had to sort through some, traumatic memories that came up and things like that. But like low-level prophantasia, like where I'm at, I can't see that really changing somebody's personality unless it went full-blown extreme, like hyper prophantasia, as Adi called it earlier. That could have a pretty profound effect on somebody's personality. Now, I've never seen anybody get to that point, though, or even close to that. What's the point of tactile exercise when it comes to prophantasia? So you want to trick your mind. So for context, Adi asked earlier, how can I practice prophantasia without the visual snow aspect? You can learn how to see visual snow, too. I believe everybody can. Low light situations, relaxing the eyes, kind of getting a visual representation, looking at like a white noise screen can sort of help. Looking through even a phone camera to the dark lit wall, because the phone will create like that noise stuff in low light situations. That's the same. It looks similar. But so my recommendation for people that don't see visual snow and can't seem to get it generated is to focus on the feeling of where something is. So you think of, excuse me, you think of where the triangle is and you feel it in space, right? Is it over here? Is it behind your head? And you kind of move it around mentally. You can start with something physical and then go on to something just imagined. And what you want to have happen is that you're tricking your brain that something is there that isn't there. Because that's what Prophantasia is. It's seeing something that's not there, right? So getting the tactile or the spatial awareness of it can help set the stage for bringing something into view that isn't physically there. Because now your brain is getting convinced that something is there that you feel, like spatially, that isn't. You ever have somebody walk up beside you, you can kind of feel like somebody, standing behind you or something like that, but you're not looking right at them? It's like that. It's this spatial awareness of where something is. You can start tricking the brain into creating certain experiences by using that. Visualization, is it the same as recalling visually something that didn't happen? When I recall something, it is subjectively the same when I visualize it. Let me try to make sure I understand your question. Is it the same as recalling visually something that didn't happen? Subjectively the same as when I visualize it. So do you mean like something occurred, but then you look back on the memory of it and it's like changed, or it's subjective? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that question. If you could try to rephrase it, FF. Part of your brain that is used for lucid dreaming, the same part used for your mind's eye? I couldn't answer that for sure. We'd want to look up some data. I'll try to always say when I don't know something, not talk out my ass. I'm not sure. It's a good question. We'd have to look it up, see if there's any research around that. Like visual cortex back here is where our physical sight is activated, and then the parietal lobe is involved with we think it's like the interpretation of what you see. And then when people use their mind's eye, they found evidence. There were two groups that I found that did the study where they were measuring brain activity with the mind's eye, and it started here and then went down here. What the heck was that? Balloons? What was that? Did y'all see that? I don't know what that was. Balloons somehow. Was that like maybe an automatic? Like balloons floated up behind me. Whatever that is. So is that the same? Are those the same centers when we dream? I'm not sure. Coined by researchers. Oh, okay. This is about endophagia. Anendophagia. Inner voice. Oh, yeah. The lack of the inner voice. Right. Thank you. Kundalini King, welcome to the Discord. Hey, let's get some convos going in there, man. I have so much time now. I've just been working on redesigning stuff and all that, but we can get some movement, some momentum in there. And I'll be coming out with like more beneficial stuff. I feel like Discord servers, a lot of times content creators use them to kind of just announce lives and stuff like that. I don't want it to be like that. I want there to actually be stuff that you guys plug into in there and take part in, and even places where people can build stuff together, projecting haptic sense and motion. Yeah. Haptic sense and motion. What are those? Tactile sense. Yeah, tactile exercises. So you mean like what are some of the exercises you can use to do that? Tracking, right? Taking your hand or have somebody move their hand around you. You're tracking where the thing is. Doing so with just an imaginary object, right? You're imagining where a ball is floating around your head. Sitting on a porch as a car goes by, you're kind of tracking in space where it would be. There's all sorts of stuff you could kind of do to start training that. Tom Matt is in the laboratory studying movement with Prophantasia. That's cool. Well, I hope they find stuff, because I think that would be extremely useful, especially with extreme Prophantasia, like if Tom Matt has that. When trying to focus on the blue and purple colors, when seeing them, they start to change. Yeah, they sure do. Ketamine helped? Interesting. I've heard other people mention that. I've heard other people say that it didn't help at all, though. But that's cool that it did help with you. How frequently will you do these lives? I'm planning once a week. Around an hour to 2 hours, maybe longer as I get rolling. I like gaming too, so I even thought about like gaming for them, or doing studies, or doing research together, stuff like that. It just depends. But I am planning on going live at least once a week to start. Is normal Fantasia a prerequisite of Prophantasia? No, surprisingly. I think it can help because like if I'm trying to project a white triangle, it can help to think of it in my head first. But I've noticed that it's not fully necessary. You don't have to have regular Fantasia to develop Prophantasia. Some people have had the experience of aphantasia, so lack of a mind's eye, but then had the experience of Prophantasia. I'm going to catch up because I'm quite far down. I'm kind of behind. Started projecting the balloons. We all had a joint projection right now. FF, to clarify the question, you can imagine an apple or you can recall what the apple I saw in the morning looks like. Subjectively, it's the same. Oh, so like when you think of an apple, are you saying that your mind will subjectively go back to the last time you saw an apple, let's say? Conclusion is the visualization is a recollection of something that did not happen. It's like creating a visual recollection. Yeah. So this is an interesting idea, right? Because in a sense, we could consider the mind's eye and the mind in general like a parrot. You have to have a reference point of something to be able to reproduce a memory of it, right? So if you've never seen an apple before, go ahead and try to imagine an apple. Well, you've never seen one. You have no idea what it looks like. There's some question there, like maybe some aspect of consciousness could tap into the information of an apple. That's more my psi, my cognitive phenomena psionic work. But let's just take what we know mainstream for where our mind's eye gets information. If you don't have a reference point for something, you're not going to know what it looks like, right? You're not going to be able to create a memory or a visualization of it because you have no reference of it. So yeah, your mind's eye would be compiling, in a sense, imagery from the things that you've seen before, correct? Audie, yeah, you just mentioned the same exact thing I was just breaking down. Yep. Games would be too distracting. I'm not a huge gamer anymore, but I've thought about it. I might have to play with it. Yeah, after the Q&A. Exactly. Like hang out, like, hey, let's hang out. Maybe, because I've thought about doing like VR chat hangouts too. I used to love VR chat. And just being in person with people like that is fun. Does visual recalling improve visualization? So FF, there is an exercise on my blog post, on my mega guide. That's the open source training guide. I didn't come up with this exercise. Somebody told me about it. It's the one exercise that I always use because it's so beneficial, that I didn't kind of come up with myself in some fashion. They call it snapshots. So you look at something, you look away, you try to hold the thing in mind. That exercise, for whatever reason, is so effective. It's so super effective. It's just incredible. And it's super easy to do. You walk around, you look at a tree moving, you look away, you look for a second or something, you look away, you try to hold it there. That seems to be extremely effective. Discord link. Let me see if I can just pull it up real quick. Hang on. If somebody else could find that and post it in the chat, that'd be great. Because otherwise it might take me a minute. Starting Discord always updates like every time you start it seems. Let me try to find it for you. Oh, that's cool. The event is like live in the Discord. So you click on it right there, happening now. That's super cool. I didn't know it would do that. Okay, so I go here. Let me track this down. Okay, here's the link. Oh, I beat you to it. I got it. I got it. Welcome, Robel. How's it going? Robel? Don't have a mind's eye. It's either completely black or full. What do you mean full? You can learn easy and remember everything you see, but it gets overwhelming. I hear ya. I hear ya. Do you have any like goals that you have? Like ways that you want to tweak your experience, Robel? Robel? Kundalini King, surrounding your life with photographers of friends, family, amateur photography gives me, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, like artists a lot of times, even hyperphantasic artists, they'll have references that they work with, right? And then I would assume there's a way, I've heard that there's ways you can like train your visual kind of library in your mind so you can recall stuff better, so you don't have to have a reference of a dragon right in front of you. You know what I mean? Up for researching. Yeah, that'd be fun, right? Like have a research topic, we all dig into it together. Reverse the identiphagia on demand. Oh, really? So you can actually cause your mind to hear the internal monologue. That's really cool. I've always thought like that's one of the reasons I started my practice in the first place when I first came across the topic of aphantasia. It's like our brain is so plastic. Our brain's so plastic, man. It can change so many things about how it's wired. So I don't see why anything would be off the table. You know, and that's kind of how I go about it for my own life too. If I want something, I'm going to go for it until I get it. Is my volume okay? I just noticed I'm kind of like underneath 12. I should be like hovering between 12 and 6. Maybe I'll turn up my mic just a little bit. You're either prophantasic or completely aphantasic. Got it. Okay, so somebody asked earlier, can prophantasia exist and aphantasia simultaneously? I found that is true. That can be the case. Point proven. Wish you could have that ability without it getting overwhelming. You mean the prophantasia stuff? Now, when you experience the voice levels, okay, thank you. When you experience prophantasia, how do you experience it? Is it internal? Is it external? Do you see it in your environment? Is it only when you're in certain states, like falling asleep? Low-dose ketamine therapy convince you of your neuroplastic brain? Yeah. Heck yeah. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like just how plastic the brain is. And in the last 25 years, the research around neuroplasticity just boomed. So coming into aphantasia back in 2018, I was like, well, like I see that I can understand the sentiment that people feel like their brain is just wired in a certain way, and that's the end of the story, you know? And I've never been in that experience myself, so I can't fully relate. I have with other things, but not with aphantasia, of course. But I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand the feeling there, but our brain's so freaking plastic. Like our brain is so plastic. We should be able to change whatever sort of conscious experience we're having. To a degree, at least, right? I think maybe certain people have bigger thresholds than others that they can reach into, but, you know. What are your thoughts on people making people in their brains and seeing them IRL? Yo, so your question here gets into if anybody's ever heard the term tulpomancy. They're training with visualization, you think? Yeah. So a lot of times I've never messed around with that. It's not something that really attracts me or is appealing to me. I don't want to have a construct, right? I'm very interested in seeing like objective, if there are extra dimensional beings or something that we could have a more objective experience with, but I don't want to have just a mind construct running around that nobody else could pick up on ever. That's not too appealing to me. But you do hear those people in their forums and stuff. You'll run across them training visualization in a bunch of different ways. One of them starts with mind's eye, so they kind of picture their person, their tulpa in their mind's eye. And then a lot of them, I forget what they call it. Oh, it's a different term than Prophantasia. And it existed, their term, it actually exists longer than Prophantasia. Oh, what is it? And my mind's blanking on it. But they have their own term for developing Prophantasia for themselves too. It's going to bug me now. You see your Prophantasia everywhere. So when somebody asks you the answers in front of you, you can see things when and where you see them. So, or when you want to see them. I mean, hey, if you can control it, that sounds pretty dope to me. Does it ever run away with you? Like, is that the problem? Does it ever get too intense? Like if you say a dragon, will you start physically seeing a dragon come in and blowing fire everywhere? Because I could see that being quite overwhelming. Lion's mane assist neuroplasticity. Yeah, a bunch of different stuff like that does, right? Where I'm at right now is really hard to have a nice diet. I'm kind of feeling it. So plastic, we have microplastic in our brains now. Yo, that's the other type of neuroplasticity that we don't really want and that everybody freaking has right now. Imposition, thank you, FF. Yes, imposition, visual imposition. That's it. That's the one. Yeah. So when they say imposition, they're talking about physically projecting the tulpa into their environment. Yep. Holographic mind and universe. I would know what you're referring to with holographic universe. I'm not sure what you're referring to with holographic mind. Tulpomancy is proof of high neuroplasticity. I would agree. Yeah, I would agree. Let me think. How long is the live going to be? I'd probably call it in another 15 minutes or something. This is my first one. I'm getting back in the flow. Next time I jump on, I'll have more of like an outline and more something we can actually walk through and step through together. But today I just wanted it to be real open-ended. So I was planning on about an hour and a half for today. Especially because probably after this I'm going to drink a bunch of water and go crash. Make sure I'm hydrated. My body was not feeling good. Yeah, tulpomancy is the idea of so creating a caricature construct in the mind that people can interact with, almost like a personality embedded in their own mind that has a visual component to it, so it looks like something that they construct. People that take that practice really far, it's quite interesting. They can actually start to interact with that construct just like a regular person. And sometimes the construct will even have its own personality and its own decision-making process that the individual who created the construct is not aware of. On more of like a philosophical, esoteric bent, I wonder if somebody was able to create a tulpa to the extent of having the information then be objective. That's what I'm really curious about. Like, can somebody create a character and have somebody else that's sensitive to those sorts of things be able to also pick up on the decisions, the conversations, or the look or actions of that tulpa? That would be extremely fascinating to have some proof around if that's a possible or not. We exist in a holographic universe. By default, the mind is holographic. Yeah. I mean, that's similar to, it would kind of interplay with simulation theory, right? And I mean, if you think about it, like, you never actually see anything. You see the light and the electromagnetic spectrum that's bouncing off of the thing. So even the stuff that's all physical, it's like you're not seeing the wood of the desk itself. You're not seeing the computer in front of you. You're seeing the light coming off, the light that got rejected from the thing, which is kind of funny to think about like that. When it comes down to it, we're still not totally sure what protons, neutrons, quarks, and all these are. There's ideas, of course. Yeah, everything's like made up of energy. It's trippy. So how could it not be holographic to some extent, right? Limited on talking at length here due to the character limitation. Yeah. Hey, jump in the Discord server. Let's start a conversation in there. Because like I said, I'm jumping back in there for myself too. I wasn't really involved in my own Discord server for quite a while, working full-time in finance, but now I'm good. Now this is what I'm doing, so. Robel, it's very overwhelming. You can't control it. Oh, got it. Yep. I hear you. That's what I was talking about earlier with wanting like a switch, right? A dial. Turn it up, turn it down, turn it up, turn it down. Theoretically, you might be able to train your mind to use the dial and have the volume instead of being at 11, past 10. Maybe you could have the volume of those experiences be lower, like 1 or 2. Just theory. The construct can switch with them. Yeah, like DID, yep. I've heard of tulpomancers talk about that. They have a term for that too. Possession or something. But I don't think it's that intense. No, it's not possession. That's not it. I forget what they call it. Hey, thanks for joining 907. Yeah, have fun at work. Awesome having you. Yeah, Robel, if there's any way we can help, even trying to brainstorm and come up with some fixes for that, I'd be happy to help in any way I could. It's not my area of expertise, though, I'm not going to lie, right? I would never frame myself as that. And of course, cognitive counseling is great, like behavioral counseling and stuff. Some specialists would have a good idea of how to navigate some of that. But thank you for sharing, Robel, because we were talking about that earlier. I don't know if you were here for that part, but what would you do if your Prophantasia ran away with you, and you didn't have control over it? It's a legitimate question and concern. It should be something to keep in mind, something to keep, be cautious around, right? Simulation theory is very popular in meditation, visualization communities. Yeah. Right? It is interesting, right? I have some wild stories about that for myself, like how I came to some of my more esoteric concepts, I haven't really talked about that stuff a whole lot within this practice, especially when I first created an Aphantasia Meow, it was just going to be mind's eye stuff purely. And I had a parallel brand where I would talk about more of that stuff. Now I joined them all together. Because I'm just me. I just want to talk about what I think is cool. I think it's just called switching. I think you're right. Yes. Oh, fronting. I feel like I've heard both those terms. Holographic universe is not the simulation theory. Oh. Just actual physics. Well, yeah. So according to what you're saying, my holographic universe concept might be more aligned with what I was saying earlier. All matter is just a reflection of the energy coming off of it, right? We're not even sure what all that means. Do you think an app for checking ocular binary for VR cardboard? Yes, I do. I've thought about designing something like that in the past. I just don't have the tool set, and I didn't have the time, but now I would. I'm not a dev. I actually know C#. I learned it to work with Unity. But it's just my skills are not refined enough to be able to crank stuff out very fast. There's a group, they really refined. So Joel Pearson first came out with the binocular rivalry test. If you guys don't know what that is, it's very cool. It's a method of measuring the mind's eye finally in more of an objective way. VVIQ is fine, and that's like the golden measurement. Actually, I wouldn't even say it's fully fine, VVIQ. It's okay. It's at least something, right? The problem with it is it's a subjective questionnaire. So if somebody thinks they have aphantasia, but they actually don't, they'll answer the questionnaire based on the idea that they have aphantasia. Or vice versa, if they think they're hyperphantasic, but they really aren't. So it's not an objective measure. The binocular rivalry test was able to lock in some measure of objective measurement of the mind's eye. Presence of a mind's eye. And how it works is you think of you would have a divider, two images would be shown on either side. So this eye would be seeing something, this eye would be seeing another thing. And then you'd think of, let's say, a green circle first. Over here's a red circle, over here's a green circle. If you think of the green circle first in your mind's eye, you're more likely to see the green circle pop up over here as opposed to the red circle, but they both show at the same time. So it's like your brain will pick one side or the other. Aphantasics would show like a 50-50 rate. The brain doesn't really know which one to pick. People that can visualize would show a higher rate of seeing one or the other, right? That they visualize first. So it's a really cool test. A lot of people tried to replicate that. There's a lot of noise in the data, and most places just kind of gave up. But there's a guy named Merlin, Dr. Merlin Monzel. He's from Germany. He's a neuroscientist over there. His team was able to replicate it, and he's shared the resources with me. I just haven't started to dig into them yet. So I'm wondering if at some point, you know, I can help get like an at-home version out to people. That would be ideal, where you can self-diagnose from home, right? Something like that. Have you seen that Prophantasia exercise where you look at bright image, quickly turn away and hold? Yeah. So the FF, what you're describing there is like, it's like after image training. The Cure Aphantasia Reddit has some of that. Has some good suggestions around that stuff. I never focused on that type of exercise within prophantasic training, but I do think it could be quite effective. Yeah. I like all these emojis finally streaming in. I don't know when those started happening. How did I get those balloons? That's what I want to know. The joint prophantasic balloons. I think we would all love and prefer a real medical test over just speculation. Abso-freaking-lutely. It's been the bane of mind's eye research, quite honestly. Because, like, if you have a sample size of 3,000 people, but all of them self-prescribed using the VVIQ, man, your data might be so messed up, you know? Like, there could be half of those people that think they're pure aphantasic, they might not be at all. Or vice versa. People that think they have prophantasia, they might just have it misclassified. Or people that think they're a common phantasic, they might be hypo. You know, it's kind of gnarly to think about. Gonna be rich one day. Yeah, I mean, that's a funny thing. Like, there's not much money in science, you know. It's actually more lucrative to have a private practice like me, because at least you can charge for stuff. But it's like if you're in science, you're just getting grants, and hopefully that can continue the research, which is a good and bad thing, you know. But the methods leads to dissociating. Might have had mini strokes. You said LOL. I'm going to assume you were joking. Well, hey guys, I'm going to start thinking about wrapping it up here. My body's kind of fighting me right now a little bit. Starting to feel kind of funky. I won't go into the nitty-gritty, dirty details, but it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant earlier. So my body's starting to feel it. I lucked out. I only had food poisoning once so far from being in this totally different country that I'm not used to, you know. I feel like I've gotten off pretty easy. Cross my fingers. Adi, I want to see what you're saying here. Methods leads to dissociation or focus problem. Like they claim you have to switch the focus, like when you switch your focus between objects. So they claim you can't change the color of an object while looking at it. Some claim they can do it. Change the color of an object. Do you mean you're looking at a white cup with both eyes, but you can force the cup to be blue? I think Jung talked about that. I have heard that sort of thing mentioned. I've never been able to do that. I've like created outlines of three-dimensional shapes in my physical environment before, but I've never been able to like adjust the color drastically anyway, a little bit a little bit, I would say. Like I could start my brain perceiving something like a different shade, but not super powerfully like Jung described. I think it's theoretically possible, for sure. Theoretically. I haven't really come across anybody that could do that. Yeah, hey, y'all. Well, hey, that was amazing. What a fun first live. Like, what a blast. Had a really good time with each and every one of you. Thanks for asking so many questions, being so engaging. I will do some more of these. They're going to kind of track with what my blog is talking about each week. So if I release a visual snow blog, my live stream will have a bit of a theme about visual snow, right? So you can expect stuff like this to happen more. It's a good time to jump into the Discord server and my newsletter on my website because a lot of information is going to roll out through those two platforms. And yeah, my blog, each week, I'm aiming at each week have a new topic that we cover on the blog. Some open source stuff, some topics, some, just exploration of ideas and kind of ideating. So some of my more radical sort of experiences and different ideas about psionics and stuff I'll start talking about through there and on here. Yeah, it was a blast. Thank you so much, Adi. All right, everybody. Well, hey, have an awesome day. Thank you for hanging with me. And I will see you guys really soon. All right, more of these to come. All right, take care. That was a fucking blast.